Please rise, please, Levy.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best Lord, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word. I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, and I thy true Son. Thou in me dwell.
Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir. Merci.
I with
My dear friends, my sincere condolences to all of you today. I know this is a very sad moment, very tragic moment when you lose someone you love, someone who's close to you. But despite your pain, despite your sorrow, we have to believe, that after death there's something else. That's our only consolation when we lose someone we love. Even though we don't understand, even though we can't explain, is to believe that now Ronald, or I've been told I could call him Ron, is now starting this journey into a world which is just beyond our imagination, but into a world that does exist. So today we're here to celebrate the life of Ron and to commend his soul to the good Lord. Ron Burnley passed away on April 9th, 2023, at the age of 86. And it was Easter Sunday, if I understand correctly. That's quite a sign. What does Easter Sunday mean to us? This is the day that we celebrate resurrection after death. That's what Easter Sunday is all about. And he died on that day. I think this is, tells us here, we have a strong message, is to believe that after death there's life. What happened in Jerusalem almost 2,000 years ago, where a man was convicted, he was crucified on a cross, and everybody saw it and believed that he was dead, and that his memory had disappeared, and that he would never come back again. Well, guess what? 3 days later, he rose from the dead, and he taught us everything about death and resurrection. So what happened in Jerusalem almost 2,000 years ago continues to happen right here in Ottawa. That is, after death, there's resurrection. That's our only consolation here today. Ron leaves behind his loving wife and best friend of 61 years, almost 62. Wow, that's quite a record here today. Without passing any judgment here, just an observation, okay? Today is not like 61 years, it's more like 61 months or 61 days, eh? So your love that united you 61 years ago was stronger than all the storms you met throughout those 61 years. Because after all, you have your good days, but you also have your bad days. But that love never had an expiry date. 61 years of love and marriage. And he was also a father to his devoted children, Lana, and their spouse as well, Pam and Harold, Sandra and Chris, and Brian and Leanne, and his adoring grandchildren, Matthew, Nicholas, and Hannah, Danielle and Shannon, Cassandra, Tyler, Christopher, Kai, Claire, and May. He was predeceased by his parents, Joseph and Beatrice Burnley, his sister Kathleen, brother Ken, and sister-in-law Marie Allard, missed by his sisters Louise and Jim, Grace and Bob, Connie and Doug, brother-in-law Bob, Rhodey, and Patricia, and numerous nieces and nephews and loving friends. A man of integrity, values, and service, he was very proud to have served our country, thank you, Ron, as a soldier and officer in the Canadian Armed Forces for 29 years. These qualities also shone through in his kind, loving, and compassionate nature with his family and all the people who crossed his path. He had a warm smile and a kind heart, and everyone knew, loved, and appreciated him. He was devoted to his wife Betty, who he considered his rock, and they treasured their life together. To his children, he was the best dad we could have asked for. Family was at the center of his life, and he told us how lucky he was. We were the lucky ones, according to the kids. Thank you for sharing this message with us. So, my dear friends, we're here today to remember Ron and to commend his soul to the good Lord. Like I said before, Fortunately, life is a mystery, and death is a mystery. As a matter of fact, when we talk about death, we have more questions than we have answers. We don't have all the questions. So today, even though we can't explain, we could not understand, we have to believe now that the starting of this journey into a world which is just beyond our imagination. It was your angel in this world. It will now be your angel in heaven. It will look after you, but in a different way. So to start the celebration of his life and to be able to commend his soul and bless the ashes, and a little bit later I'm going to bless the ashes, but we don't bless ashes. I'm really going to bless Ron himself and commend his soul to the good Lord. To do that, there's a little ritual that goes with that. God of mercy and consolation, you are the Lord of the living and the dead. In your own is final life and meaning. Lord, today life has come to an end for Ron Burnley. Today, our hearts are broken. But despite our pain, despite our sorrow, we do thank you, Lord, for the life and the blessings that you've given to Ron. My friends, we're here to say goodbye to Ron. But just imagine, if he had never been born, a lot of you wouldn't be here today. Right? So I think we should be thankful for his life as well, as we say goodbye. To thank the good Lord for all the blessings, for all the great things he did in this world. So to continue this service, we will now do the reading of a Psalm 22-23, and I'm going to invite Harold to come up, please. And the response to the psalm is, the Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want. Harold?
The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want. Fresh and green are the pastures where he gives me repose. Near restful waters he leads me to revive my drooping spirit.
The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want.
He guides me along the right path. He is true to his name. If I should walk in the valley of darkness, no evil would I fear. You are there with your crook and your staff. With these you give me comfort.
The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want.
You have prepared a banquet for me in the sight of my foes. My head you have anointed with oil. My cup is overflowing.
The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want.
Surely goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. In the Lord's own house shall I dwell forever and ever. The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want.
Well, as you know, we don't need to wear this anymore, but because I do pastoral work in hospitals, so I still wear that to protect the people around me and the people who are close to me. But 3 years ago, before the COVID, if I walk into a bank with my mask, they would have kicked me out and called the police, okay? During the pandemic, if I walk into the bank without my mask, they kick me out as well. So I guess we can learn from this that, even though sometimes we have to face very difficult situations, we always find a solution. We should never give up. Whatever the situation can be, never give up. So to commend his soul to the good Lord, I will now do the reading of the gospel. I would ask you, would you please rise for a few moments? The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust in me. There are many rooms in my Father's house. If there were not, I would have told you so. I'm now going to prepare a place for you. And after I've gone and prepared you a place, I shall return to take you with me, so that where I am, you may be too. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated. Thank you. My dear friends, the two readings we've just read from the scriptures, Harold did one, the Psalm 22-23, and I did the Gospel of John, chapter 14, 1-5. Why do I say that? A few months ago, in London, England, in September last year, at the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, they read the same text, the same words we just read, Harold and I. My dear friends, is to remind us that in the eyes of God, we're all equal. Not because you're a king or a queen, you have a special prayer, and because you reside in Ottawa, you have a different prayer. We all have access to God in the same way. Makes no difference who you are. And also to remind us that we have a God who's full of compassion, full of mercy. We understand that in this world we do our best. Nobody's perfect. Until we die, we'll never be perfect. But we can count on a God who understands, always ready to turn the page and say, let's start over again. I'm sure that all of you today, you have very fond memories of Ron. Those memories engraved in your heart when nobody can go except you. Well, death cannot erase those memories. Death does not have the last word. Love will always be stronger than death. So to add a more personal touch to the celebration of his life here today, I'm going to call on a few people to come up. First, I understand it's the grandchildren who are going to come up to pay tribute to their grandfather. Am I correct? Yes. You're all invited to come up. Please join me here.
All of us grandchildren were very loved by our grandpa. We have irreplaceable memories of our time with him that we will undoubtedly cherish for years to come. While many of these memories are shared among us, there are also the personal, more intimate times upon which we can look back and remind ourselves of our grandpa's integrity, humor, and kindness. We'd like to share some of these memories with you today.
I'll always remember those games of cribbage and Uno I had with you, Grandpa. The times at the cottage, including the times you let me drive and steer the pontoon boat, and the trips down south. I'll also never forget that Grandpa loved to eat those Mr. Maple cookies, and how he always or nearly always wore a shirt with a pocket so he could have a pen, a toothpick or two, and his little notebook, aka bank book, with important dates like birthdays and anniversaries and other information whenever he needed it. Grandpa, now that you rest here and make your way up to heaven, I'll remember always love you and miss you so much.
Hello. One thing that was always obvious about Grandpa is that he was very proud of where he came from and where he ended up. He was a family man through and through, which I could tell even as a kid from his stories about growing up with his siblings to always playing with us grandkids. I can recall stories of Grandpa sliding me around as we lay on the kitchen floor, showing me how things can be worked or fixed in his workshop, and him bringing me to the movies or cosmic adventures just to spend some time with me. He loved us with every fiber of his heart, and I know that love stays with us even now.
So I've got two memories I'd like to share. So I remember when we were younger, coming up from Kitchener, we would visit Ottawa on the cottage every summer, and every day without fail, Grandpa would ask who wanted to come for a car ride. And we knew what that meant. It meant going to Scoops to get ice cream. Even if that meant ice cream for breakfast, Grandpa knew how to keep his grandkids smiling. And a more recent memory, when I went to visit Grandpa at the hospital last weekend, a nurse came in to check his blood sugar. She pricked his finger, and he goes, "Ow, ow." And I thought he was really hurt. Then he smiles, and I knew he was just putting on a show. And it goes to show that it was never about him. He was always there to make people smile, even in his worst days, and that's something I'm going to take with me forever.
I'm Nick McNally, Sandy's son and Ron's second oldest grandchild. When reflecting on what to share today, hundreds of memories came to mind, and I found myself lost in emotional but heartwarming reminiscence. They're the big ones, core memories. Too many favorites to choose from, and we'd be up here all day. We'd be wrapping a matinee and back again for, until the lights get turned off. But then there are all the little things. The little things that when you look back, you don't even realize would stick with you. And the more you reflect on them, the more they become important to you. Bungee cords, for example. Those stretchy elastic straps with hooks on either end. As experienced this week even, something my Uncle Harold and I laughed about, I can't look at a bungee cord and not think of Grandpa. Growing up, it seemed like he had an endless supply, and he used them like he had an endless supply. Maybe on a trailer, maybe in the garage, who knows. And in a lot of ways, Grandpa was like a bungee cord for our family. Strong, dependable, adaptable, and up for whatever task is at hand. And believe me, there were many, many tasks. Always there keeping everything and everyone supported, with just enough flexibility and enough give to let things bounce back. Grandpa was a role model of resilience, composure, discipline, and knowing when to inject a little humor into life, and when doing so might get you into a bit of trouble. I think the bungee cord analogy can only go so far and capture just a fraction of his impact, but it really serves as a testament to the love and support that he gave us all. I'll stop now before I get into duct tape, elastic bands, baby food jars, or any of the other staples in his many workshops. We will cherish his memory and carry his spirit with us always. He was a true inspiration and a shining example of how to live life with grace, humor, and kindness. So here's to you, Grandpa, our beloved bungee cord jack of all trades and master of many, including family. Thank you for all the love, laughter, and unforgettable memories. Rest in peace, knowing that you'll always be in our hearts. I'll also be sharing a memory on behalf of my sister, Cassandra. I'll read what she wrote for me to share here. When I think of Grandpa, I think of an early morning in a sunlit kitchen. A cup of steaming coffee and hot breakfast with the morning paper. The quiet sound of birds chirping outside. I think of a lawnmower on green grass being perfectly cut, water in the landscape, and the sound of heat bugs buzzing. The feeling of not needing to be anywhere but here. I think of a 1 p.m. summer afternoon coffee and muffin on the deck, with the sway of a willow tree from a hot summer breeze in the background. I think of the clattering of silverware at a family dinner, too many conversations to hold any attention to, but Grandpa's soaring laughter somewhere right there in reach. His whiskers on my cheek kissing me goodbye every time I saw him. You'd often hear me saying, "Hey, Grandpa, you look good today." His response with a bright smile, "Oh, honey, that's why I keep you around," with the happiness and love in those sky blue eyes of his. He was the kindest person I've ever met. He never held back on telling us all how much he loved us. To sum it up, Grandpa is everything serene to me. I love you, Grandpa. You look good today. Thank you.
My name is Claire. I am Brian's second daughter, or oldest daughter. And one of my favorite memories of Grandpa is a pretty simple time. I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and he took us kids to Rona, the hardware store, but he tried to convince me that it was actually pronounced Rana, named after him. So I've probably been saying that wrong for the past 10 years. Thank you, Grandpa. Our grandpa had a phenomenal sense of humor, and I feel so fortunate to have had someone with such a positive outlook on life as a role model, and I'll carry the lessons that Grandpa taught with me for years to come. Thank you.
I'm May Burnley. I am the second daughter. My best memory with Grandpa was when we were younger and we would head to the cottage. Grandpa was always ready to take us for a pontoon boat ride, and he would always let us help drive the boat, although I don't know how much driving we actually did. Rest in peace, Grandpa. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm Pam and Harold's son. My grandpa was an amazing man. He was a man you could depend on when you needed a hand, some advice, or a very, very old tool that was somehow in perfect condition. He was someone who would make you feel proud and honored to return the favor simply by asking you with some tedious chore at the cottage. Getting an attaboy or a good show from him was like getting a badge of honor. We all have innumerable stories of how caring, loving, gentle, proud, and humble he was. So here's another one. Reminiscing on all the great times we had with Grandpa, I was thinking, are there any not so great memories? There's none. Not that I wanted to think of one, but literally I could not come across one. Which is a surprise, because ask anyone in the family here, I was a handful as a kid. So it was shocking that there wouldn't be one memory of upsetting Grandpa. But then I remembered a time I came close. No, this isn't a story about how Grandpa was yelling mad or disciplined me, because he never had to. He knew how to get the most out of everybody, and he certainly knew how to handle me. I was a kid at the cottage, helping Grandpa mow the lawn on the tractor. Afterwards, he let me drive the tractor around the yard when he did some weed whacking. With some free time, a tractor, and my imagination, I decided to create a racetrack in the yard. And by racetrack, I mean doing figure eights around the willows. I was having a blast, and I must have done about 20 loops when Grandma called for a snack break, and I pulled my car into the pit stop. When I got up to the deck, reality returned, and I realized what I had done. I tore the lawn to shreds. And I mean down to the mud. As we sat on the deck, eating a snack, we were overlooking my mess the whole time. I thought I was about to get in trouble. My Grandpa was his cheery old self, talking about the chores we still had left to do, and planning a stop at Scoops on the way home. There's a theme here. Was I about to pull off the ultimate whodunit? Did he really not realize what I've done? Not at all. Grandpa just knew exactly how to handle it. After we finished our break and started back at work, he simply pointed at the mud-covered figure out and said, "Dan, don't do that again." I never did. He knew that's all that was needed. Grandpa, your ability to lead with such grace, poise, and pride in your family has had a profound effect on my life. The way you would handle any situation with such amazing care and humility is something I will continuously strive for. Grandpa, thank you for everything you did for us and everything you taught us. Thank you for leaving behind a life of only positive memories. I love you.
I'd like to thank all of you here today for the grandchildren coming up here. It's very touching, very inspiring. And I can tell you that your granddad says thank you. Thank you for coming here. And I'm going to ask Brian now to come up. Brian, thank you.
Well, that backfired. I should have went first instead of the grandkids. Okay. Excuse me, pardon the snort into the microphone. Good afternoon. And on behalf of my mother, Elizabeth, hereafter referred to as Betty, my sisters, Lana, Pamela, Sandra, Sandy will come later, Ron's 8 grandchildren, our extended family, and myself, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today to honor Dad and Family Man. Naturally, I was the obvious choice to speak today as Dad's favorite child, and the one who never did anything wrong, whose choices in adolescence were always sparkling. Well, reality dictated that while my incredible sisters were here doing the heavy lifting in town, taking care of the service details, taking care of Mom, I was commuting back and forth from Southern Ontario, and this tribute was one small way I could take something off their plate. So again, I'm honored to speak to my dad as his favorite child. To see so many of you here today to remember our dad is a surprise to none of us, but it would be to him. You see, nothing was ever about him, and he would never have given a second thought as to how people felt about him. Not too many people didn't like or even love Ron. If more people thought the way Dad did, less about themselves, more about others around them, our world would surely be a better place for it. Dad was a husband and father first and foremost, a soldier and career man secondly, and then Ron, the individual human being, came a distant third. Change the order, change the order. Dad adored our mother, Betty, meeting 61 years ago in Regina, Saskatchewan, and best friends since August 19th, 1961. The two of them were usually inseparable. Both Mom and Dad had their own strengths, and together they were an unstoppable force for good. Dad lacked all pretense. Never did he think he was too important to contribute to his community. This included volunteering with the St. Vincent de Paul Society, delivering food hampers at holiday time with Mom, and with the St. Ignatius Parish, Knights of Columbus, driving shut-ins and old people to appointments who were invariably younger than him. This was Dad, always staying busy while supporting and serving others nonstop. Now, there's been some hint of it. Dad was detail-oriented by design, but so kind, sweet, patient, fun-loving, and devoted to his essence. The stories we can tell about Dad's fastidious nature are endless, as are the ones outlining his mischievous and goofy side. Let's find out. Detail Dad was methodically organized and routine-driven, which had immense benefits, as we can all surmise. He started every single day by bringing coffee to Mom and ended that same day with an orange off a paper towel. Handy by nature, his tools were arranged in a way that would make Bob Vila envious. Hardware was categorized in descending order into dozens of baby food jars, bins, all with their own specific place. A workshop as clean as our kitchen, and that was clean, it was. If you needed something, chances are Dad could self-source it within 60 seconds. If you asked him where something would be, he would describe it in a precise 4-step sequence. He had a steel trap of a mind. That served our family so well. You could say our house was busy, like New York, but efficient, run like the Swiss. There was a place for everything, and everything belonged in its place. Weekly routine maintenance of the cars, repairing appliances themselves, finishing a basement, or simply setting the table for afternoon coffee and muffin were all things that, through his modeling, taught us kids the value of taking time to do things right away and the benefits of a do-it-yourself attitude. No job, no task, no favor was too big. No job, no task, no favor was too small. Mischievous Dad, as he was also known to be, loved teasing and joking just about as much as he loved his details. The treatment he would give the boyfriends my sisters brought home was pure entertainment to me. Food, thankfully made by our mom and not Dad, because God is good, was always an important aspect of our lives. When one of these dates would come over for the first time, dinner would verge on theatrical. Dad would be on his best behavior to start with. With sensible small talk, compliments to Mom, and this part's funny, and then avoiding controversial topics, until the boyfriend had seconds or thirds just to be polite and show appreciation for the hospitality, probably even against his better judgment. Dad would jump in by offering a fourth helping of whatever it was. Inevitably, the offer would be respectfully declined, as one might do after 3 servings already. Dad's facial expression would change as if he'd arranged the setup of a century. Now it was showtime. Sitting back in his chair, rubbing his chin, he'd say, "What's the matter? You don't like the food?" That was brilliant to me. The other 2 girls, Lana, Pam, or Sandy, whoever was not on the hot seat, would find it funny at first, but then grow quiet, realizing that they were up next. The guys, after turning sheet white, would backpedal and squirm and often as not take more food, not risking the chance that just maybe Dad wasn't joking. My wife Leanne was also not exempt from these warm welcomes to the family. Dad was an equal opportunity teaser. Leanne brought her new car over to the house before we were married, and Dad was doing the once over the car. Dad looked at her, looked at me, gave me a wink, and asked her if she knew how to inflate the tires, check the oil, but most importantly, locate and refill the horn fluid. So Leanne, looking perplexed, having never heard of this critically important horn fluid, now realized she had a hell of a lot more to learn about cars than she initially thought. Dad knew a little bit about everything. His knowledge of history, mechanics, engineering, and general ideologies were so impressive for someone who left school at 15 to join the Army. First thing the Army did was put him back in school. Dad would explain fairly complicated topics like conservatism and liberalism in a mature way without any bias that anyone could understand. As an example, conservatives are fiscally responsible, traditionally valued, sensible, hardworking people. Our country needs them. Liberals are maniacal, slack-jawed, bleeding heart socialists looking to spend all of your hard-earned money. There was a little editorializing in that, but we all understood the explanations, and of course I'm speaking in hyperbole. He wasn't that opinionated about many of things. There were two battles Dad bravely took on but could not conquer. One as to why we are here today was the insidious lung disease that took a fit, active, man far too soon. Just a few short years ago, he was diving into Pam's pool, jumping off Sandy's boat, and helping Lana move into her new house. For that, while we are saddened, we find solace knowing that the memories we have will make dark days ahead a lot lighter. The other battle was not as implicitly evil. It was longer, cyclical, a more back and forth feud that raged every day, all winter long. This battle involved a foe with speed, cunning, and a retaliatory sense of humor. A relentless enemy. This was the beginning of Ron versus Squirrel. As a layperson's birder, Dad deployed a variety of backyard bird feeders to enjoy all the birds of Eastern Ontario. He really enjoyed sitting out, watching them, trying to study their habits, and just getting to know the routines of the birds that visited the backyard. For a hardened soldier, used to some pretty tough conditions in the field that tested the very makeup of someone's psyche, squirrel-proofing a bird feeder seemed all too easy. Nothing to think about, child's play. Well, not so fast, Ronald, said the squirrel. The feeder sat on top of a pole so as to protect it from land-based animals looking to steal a snack. One black squirrel didn't get the memo and would often frequent the feeder for an endless buffet of treats. This was not acceptable to Dad. No birds would come if a big ugly squirrel was hanging around. Well, birds still came to the feeder, but so did the squirrel, and sometimes even bringing a friend. Whatever Dad seemed to do, the squirrels found their way up to the feeder. He tried lowering it, he tried raising it, he tried greasing the pole. The same black squirrel would always find its way back up to the platform. Dad would go so far as to repeatedly slamming the door, hoping to startle the squirrel, send it away, but Dad was usually met with taunting glances from the little squirrel, who really enjoyed toying with him almost as much as the squirrel enjoyed the birdseed. One day in midsummer, after testing various squirrel-proof prototypes, Dad installed what appeared to be the lid of a garbage can halfway up the pole. He was proud of his ingenuity, as nothing could circumvent his barrier. With the pride of a job well done, Dad went to bed excited to have finally ridden his feeder of the pesky squirrel. Mom would often remark, "The squirrels are literally chuckling at your expense, Ron." But deep down, I think she enjoyed, along with me, watching the feud. Dad came downstairs the next morning, said hello to me, and looked outside to see what birds were occupying his now squirrel-proof feeder. I was startled with the sound of coffee being spit up, followed by an audible grunt and groan mixed in with mild swearing, which told me all I needed to know about the effectiveness of Dad's contraption. The same squirrel that tormented Dad morning after morning was back, not only eating the birdseed, but defiantly doing so, staring right through the window at Dad, making eye contact. Accepting defeat is not in a soldier's makeup. However, even our dad knew he was beaten, and in defeat accepted the squirrels into the backyard. Ron versus squirrel was never spoken again on Appleton Drive. 36 hours before Dad left us, Sandy and I were visiting him in his room. When the new floor doctor came to survey their patients, Dad, breathing with full-time supportive oxygen now for the 5th straight month, was asked how he was feeling. "Oh, good, good," he replied. Eyes perked up. The doctor looked shocked, and my sister and I made eyes together. "How's your breathing, Mr. Burnley?" Dr. Lagadich asked. "Oh, not too bad at all," he replied, through short, deliberate breaths. The doctor says, "You know you're a little short of breath. Actually, you're quite short of breath." Dad just shrugged it off with his body language that said, "Well, that's your problem, not mine," and continued to ask questions. After a group effort answering the questions, the doctor shot an incredulous glance at my sister and I, and our expressions told the story of his unspoken strength. Dad was as brave, as proud, and as steadfast in his resolve to remain healthy and strong for us, but mostly for Mom. Deep down, I think in his own mind, he thought he could just trick the doctor into letting him go home to be with Mom. Well, we all know that was not in God's plan, nor within the realm of science and medicine. Even as a family, it was a late realization to me, and maybe even all of us, just how sick Dad was. But I think he knew. The pride in his family even came out in these final hours, as when he should have been quiet and resting, he was talking to his roommate Elizabeth across the curtain. "Elizabeth, yes, if you need anything, my son is here and can help you." "Okay, thank you, Ron." "And his wife." "Okay, thank you, Ron." "And my grandson." "Okay, thank you, Ron." "Oh, and my granddaughter is here as well." The words echoed above the curtain. He was irrepressible until the end, of course. Showing off his family was what he loved to do the most. I was with Dad. I was with Dad when he passed. He looked at me and I looked at him. And he drifted off, giving himself permission, after 86 years, to finally rest. He was comfortable knowing that, our mom, while forever missing Dad, is equally competent, equally capable, and equally resolute, and that B, my remarkable sisters, Lana, Pam, and Sandy, and their families, are close by. Excuse me. Just in case. Nothing will be missed, overlooked, or forgotten, and for a detail-oriented man, he was comforted knowing all the details were taken care of. Dad, we love you dearly. You taught us all so much and never stopped doing things for us, helping us, shielding us, and guiding us, even up until the end. But it's time for you to rest. You never told us how sick you were or how tired you really were, but we kind of knew. Your bravery in the face of your imminent passing was purposeful, so as not to increase our worry or sorrow. That's as selfless as can be. And a master class in making sure that nothing was about him, even his death. And we all noticed that. Dad, rest assured, we've got the details, and Mom.
Thanks, Brian. Very touching. Thanks also for your sense of humor. And I'm sure that all of you today, you also have very fond memories of Ron. So we're going to take time to listen to another song. As we listen to the song, we will think of Ron, those beautiful memories, all those great things he did in this world. Janine, thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already gone. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Please sing along if you like. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see.
So in a few moments, I will bless the ashes. Like me, we don't bless ashes. I'm going to be blessing Ron himself and commend his soul to the good Lord. Last year, when Pope Francis was in Canada, I was invited to meet the Pope. And when you meet a Pope, he says that you can share his papal blessing. I feel very privileged here today as I commend his soul to share this papal blessing that I got from Pope Francis as I commend his soul to the good Lord. And to do that, we say the Lord's Prayer. Si vous parlez français, c'est la prière du Notre Père. And in English, it's the Lord's Prayer. So we can remain seated. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Into your hands, O Lord, we humbly entrust the soul of Ronald, Winston, Burnley. We ask you now to welcome you into your kingdom of peace for the world. We know, Lord, that you are God full of compassion for the weak, and we know that this is kind of you. So today, Lord, we ask you to welcome them and to bless them, the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And this blessing of Pope Francis will be over this sometime at the start of the day. So my friends, I've just commended his soul to the good Lord, as we believe now that he's starting this journey into a world which is just beyond our imagination. I've done pastoral work in Montreal in hospitals for about 15 years. Now I do in hospitals here in Ottawa, and in Gatineau at La Maison Mathieu Froment Savoie, where I accompany people who are close to death. And usually, it happens very often that a couple of hours or a day before, a patient usually asks me the same question. They'll say to me, we always say that after death is life. What can we expect? Do we have an idea? Well, obviously, I don't have the answer. But I usually use an analogy. I talk about the greatness of the universe. According to the Space Center, just within our galaxy where planet Earth is right now, there are billions of stars, but only 5,776 stars are visible at the naked eye. The other stars, we don't see them. Now, if you wanted to reach the closest star at the speed of light, which is roughly about 300,000 kilometers per second, it would take you about 4 years. And if you wanted to reach the furthest star within our galaxy at the speed of light, it would take you about 100,000 years. This is just one galaxy. Outside of our galaxy, there are trillions of galaxies out there, and in the number trillion, you could put a number 1 and 18 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 18 times. So to those people who ask me, what can we expect after death? I say, well, if already in this world we know a universe which is just mind-boggling, just beyond our imagination, I think that after death it can be a state of life which is just beyond our imagination. My friends, it's a great mystery. Unfortunately, we don't have the answers. But we can believe that after death is life. And to close this celebration of his life here today, I'd like to share just a little poem with you, reminding us that after death is life. If tomorrow should start without me, and I'm not here to see the sun rise before me, please do not cry as we say goodbye. I know how much you love me. I know how much you miss me. Please understand that an angel came and called my name, that my place was ready in heaven above, and that I had to leave those I love. Today my life on earth is past, but my new life will always last. Because of God's mercy and compassion, at last I am now free to enjoy the place God has prepared for me. The angel said to me, this is now eternity, where there is no sorrow, no weeping, no pain, no sickness, but the fullness of peace and joy for eternity. The angel took me by the hand and said, understand that this new life has no end, because to God nothing is impossible. If tomorrow should start without me, do not let your hearts be filled with sorrow, because now I have a new tomorrow. And remember that those who have gone away have only gone into a brighter day. For this is a journey we must all take alone, a step on the road to our new home. If sorrow and pain are in sight, do not give up the fight. Do not cry for a soul set free. It's all part of the Master's plan for me. But if you need to cry, put your trust in the one above the sky. And if you need me, call me. I will be there. Because now, I can be anywhere. No matter how far you are. It makes no difference where you are. Even though I may seem far, I will never be too far. So my friends, this is a few words of consolation here today. Even though we can't explain, even though we don't understand, we can believe that after death there's life. And sometimes when I accompany people in palliative care, I do accompany little kids. And they are very tough questions for me. And I use another analogy. I grew up on a small island, right? Yes, right in the middle of the ocean, blue sea, blue sky, blue waves. I've heard it before. Why did I leave? Okay. The answer, well, next week. Okay. So I used to go to the beach, just like you go on vacation. You see those big ships cruising towards the horizon, and eventually, with the naked eye, you don't see the ship anymore. Now, one side of the horizon, we say, well, the ship is gone. While on the other side of the horizon, people say, hey, there's a ship coming. It's the same ship. But, friends, it's what we're going through here today. As we say, Ron is gone, people who've traveled before says, Ron is coming. So when you think of him, think of the ship. Even though physically he's not here, spiritually he's here. Once more, my sincere condolences to all of you today. I ask the good Lord to give you the strength to go through this. I know it's always, there's a grieving process. Sometimes you'll have to cry. But remember that your tears will always be an expression of your love and affection for Ron, who has left us. And as we listen to the last song, and Janine, I'd like to thank you again. And we will then go to, you have a reception at the back, if I understand correctly, where you'll be able to continue and think of Ron and all those fond memories. Thank you.
Consider all the worlds thy hands have made.
beautiful. Very touching.